Hey boys and girls, I'm back. My next project that I'm going to work on today is going to be from media. I decided that I'm going to do my own Genius Hour project because I've been very interested watching their videos and seeing all the cool inspirational stories they've been sharing about people creating new things and inventing and exploring new ideas. What I decided to do is more of a research project. And so during this time at home, I decided that I wanted to create a book about my family. So I'm actually going to do one for my dad's family and my mom's family. I'm working on my dad's side of the family right now, and he's an only child. So anything that we have, I did some interviews with him kind of to figure out who's in what photo, maybe what year it was taken. And then I had to do a lot of research on the computer because my dad's parents were immigrants from Sicily. Here is a map of Sicily, and to the left you will see the port and the province of Trapani. That may look familiar to you because that is my name, Trapani. This is where my family came from, and here is a picture of the beautiful port of Trapani, Sicily. Now let me tell you a little bit about what I found out during my research. So, another thing that I found out while I was researching my great grandparents were the documents from Ellis Island. So, when they would leave Sicily or when anybody would leave any country during that time and they were coming to America, they would have to come through Ellis Island. And so their name, their age, the country that they were living in previously, that was all documented. And so I was able to find out what years they came over here to America, and that was in 1910. Here is a picture of the SS Providence. This is one of the ships that was used for immigration during that time. And after a 2-week journey at sea from Sicily, they arrived in New York at Ellis Island, which you see here. My great grandfather actually passed away pretty young, so we don't have any pictures of him and we didn't know a lot. But I got on a site called Ancestry.com and I started looking at some records, and this is what I found. So I was able to find this about my great grandfather, and this is actually his World War I draft card. So during the time for the World Wars, everybody had to fill out one of these cards, and they had to put where they lived, their age, their profession, or their job. And so it was really interesting to me to find this because we were able, it was kind of like a piece of the puzzle that we were putting into place. So that was pretty neat. Like I said, I don't have much information about my great grandparents, especially my great grandfather, but it was interesting to see his name printed on those documents, like a little piece of history. It was a little bit easier to research my grandmother's family because they had been living here in the United States for a couple generations. They were living in Wisconsin and then they moved to Michigan, sort of near Jackson, Michigan. She grew up on a farm, and so I want to share some of those pictures with you now because. So after I gathered as much information as I could from those previous generations, I started to piece together these photos and information about my own grandparents. So one of the interesting things that I found out from my father is that my grandmother and grandfather met at a World War II bomber plant at Willow Run near Ypsilanti. And so they were building these bomber planes, and she was working there. He was a supervisor, but she was working there as a Rosie the Riveter. So I'm going to show you that picture now. You might recognize it. No, this isn't a picture of my grandmother, but Norman Rockwell created this painting in 1943 to represent how women were contributing during World War II. that became iconic because women weren't really in the workforce prior to the war. But because so many men went over to war, women had to step into these roles where they were joining the workforce. And a lot of the jobs were created because they were creating things to help out with the war. So that's kind of a cool piece of history that I wanted to document. And I have this picture. The frame's actually falling apart because it's so old. But this is my grandmother when she was younger. We never get to see what our grandparents, or maybe even our parents, look like when they're really young. So it's neat to see these old photos. They're so glamorous. And then it took some digging, but we finally found my grandparents' wedding album. And so here's a picture from their wedding. And both my dad's parents and my mom's parents and my parents all got married at the same church here in Wyandotte. So I think it's kind of interesting how people can come from different countries or different states and everyone kind of ends up in the same place at the right time. And that's how your family comes together when you think about it. So I'm going to show you guys a couple more things, but I really hope that this inspires you to start asking these questions about the history of your family because it's pretty interesting. Here's some pictures of me as a kid with my family and my grandparents. I hope that this inspires you to research your family and to find out more about your parents and your grandparents.